William Devaney races the clock trying to avert a nuclear accident that could annihilate thousands. In Red Alert, Friday night at 11 on WCCO television.
On the next episode of Soap, Bert has a chat with his shrink.
You'd be shocked.
No, I won't.
Yes, you will.
I guarantee I won't.
Oh, yeah?
Try me.
I murdered my wife's first husband.
Jody and Dennis discuss their future.
I'm here becoming a girl for you, but if you've already got one, what am I doing? You think I need this? Think I'm looking forward to retaining water?
And Chester picks the wrong restaurant.
Oh, God.
Friday night at 10:30 on WCCO television.
Camp Hand in Hand, a residential program for autistic children, youth, and young adults in the metropolitan area, is sponsored by the Twin Cities Society for Autistic Children and assisted through the efforts of the State Department of Education and the Minneapolis Public Schools, and will be held July 29th through August 11th at Wilder Forest, Marine on St. Croix, Minnesota. Volunteers are needed to work with the campers. Orientation for volunteers will be on Wednesday, June 27th, 7 to 8 p.m. at Gillette Hospital in St. Paul. Call 642-9042.
WCCO television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
The Dukes of Hazzard will not be seen tonight, so that we might bring you the following special program. The Dukes of Hazzard will return next week at the same time.
Calvin Griffith, Mr. Minnesota Twins. His whole life has been baseball, and his ascendancy to ownership was a natural progression. For businessman Carl Pohlad, it has always been an elusive dream, until now. WCCO Television Sports presents Twins 84, A Season of Change. Special coverage of the transfer of ownership of the Minnesota Twins. Now, live from the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, here are Mark Rosen and Tom Hanneman.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our special broadcast. We are here tonight because the live ceremony is coming up of the official transfer of ownership of the Minnesota Twins. And yes, they will remain the Minnesota Twins. Well, that ceremony is scheduled to start in about a half hour. In a few minutes behind Tom and I here at the Metrodome Field, there will be a home run hitting contest between the White Sox' Greg Luzinski and Tom Bernansky of the Minnesota Twins.
And while they're slugging it out, we want to set the stage for tonight's events, a story that had its beginning 2 years ago.
The groundwork for the sale of the Twins began in the spring of 1982, when the team moved from Met Stadium to the new Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome downtown. Owner Calvin Griffith had secured an escape clause in his contract with the Dome that would allow him to take the Twins elsewhere if attendance didn't average 1.4 million fans a year for any 3-year period. Almost from the beginning, empty seats were a common sight at the new home of the Twins. One reason was the lack of air conditioning at the Dome. That first summer, it was more like a sauna than a baseball stadium. Fans sweated out routes as well as close games, and less than 900,000 people paid to watch the team at the Dome. The next year, the Dome was air-conditioned, but it didn't help attendance much. Fans had seen some of their favorite players leave the team. At one point, catcher Butch Weiniger, pitcher Roger Erickson, and shortstop Roy Smalley had been traded to the big-money New York Yankees. It was a trend that had started when American League batting champion Rod Carew left in 1977 because the Twins wouldn't spend the money to keep him here.
You know, from the get-go of this whole thing, I've always said that I want to be here, and I was really hoping that they would come back, you know, and make an effort to sign me, some kind of an effort, which they never did. And that's one thing that I'm very disappointed about. I think now people can see the type of businessman Calvin Griffith is and the way that he runs things.
Many fans were upset with Twins management, and the team's mediocre one-loss record transmitted into mediocre attendance in the second season at the Dome. With the beginning of this season, 2.4 million Minnesotans would have to buy Twins tickets to keep the team in its Dome contract, a long shot at best. At the same time, a group of investors in Tampa, Florida, were interested in buying the Twins and moving them to the Bay Area. In early January, plans were approved for a $56 million Dome stadium in Tampa. The stadium and an offer of $24 million were presented to Calvin Griffith, which made many Twin supporters back here nervous. Then the Tampa interest bought Gabe Murphy's 42% share of the Twins stock, and business interest here took action. In early May, a task force headed by Harvey McKay was unveiled to keep the Twins in Minnesota. The most obvious way would be to up the attendance so the team would be committed to its dome lease. The plan was to purchase enough tickets with money raised in the private sector. A total of $6 million was gathered by Memorial Day, and the ticket buyout began. It was opposed by Calvin Griffith, but went on anyway, as Griffith began negotiations with Twin Cities banker Carl Pohlad, one of the state's richest men, a friend of Griffith who had an interest in pro sports. Pohlad would make a cash offer for the Griffith stock, would keep the team here, and would keep Griffith family members on the staff. Late Tuesday, Griffith and Pohlad agreed on a price of $32 million for the team, with $10 million down.
We are back live at the Metrodome with Twin Cities businessman Harvey McKay. And Harvey, it's been a long haul. I know you've been instrumental from the beginning of what has turned into a long experience with Carl Pohlad being named the new owner of the Twins. Are you satisfied with the results?
Well, I would say nothing short of sensational. Actually, Mark, we're ecstatic. We had some objectives, we had some goals. We met those objectives. We took the bat out of the hands of cities like Denver, Tampa, as you well know, Vancouver, and Indianapolis with their dome stadium. And Twins will be here for the next 30 years at least, and we're going to have Major League Baseball, and that's what it's all about.
Let's talk about a couple issues, attendance and the dome stadium itself, and how you think Carl Pohlad and the Twin Cities will approach those situations here with attendance.
Well, Mr. Pohlad's been a winner all his life and been successful at everything he's ever had as far as all of his endeavors, so I would suspect that I would plunk my money down and buy some Carl Pohlad stock tomorrow morning if the markets were open. I suspect that he thinks, I haven't talked to him about it, that the dome is a plus. The dome is not a negative. It's a marketing dream because it's Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin. That's where the fans are. They're going to have 81 games here times the next 30 years, and I think they'll promote it, and I think they'll build their product. Nothing is important unless you have a good product, and I think he'll build the product.
Do you have any regrets about the way the ticket buyout was handled, or what will happen now with that situation?
No, if we had to do it all over again, that's what we're so ecstatic about. We had a plan, and the plan has worked successfully. We raised $6.4 million. Only $700,000 was spent. We have new owners. We have Major League Baseball here for a long time. All the other cities are out. 2.3 million of that from the business community will be converted to season tickets, and that extrapolates to approximately 3,500 season tickets.
You're talking like a businessman again, Harvey. Let me ask you one quick question and give me a quick answer.
Sure.
Do you think you will be involved with the Twins organization under Carl Pohlad?
It really is too premature. I may have minor involvement. I told him I wanted to help him. He said he'd like to have me continually involved, and so we'll just have to wait. Right now, we've got Major League Baseball, and that's what it's all about.
I have a feeling Harvey McKay will be involved somehow.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Harvey McKay, Twin Cities businessman, and we are live at the Metrodome, and next I will have a report on the history of the Griffith era of the Minnesota Twins. That's 84, a season of change, right here on WCCO television.
There's a lot of enthusiasm with having somebody new in management. I think it's a real good move.
I'm very pleased about the new ownership. I think we'll all benefit by it.
In the 1950s, Blatz was voted Milwaukee's finest beer for 10 straight years. The reason? Blatz quality.
In comparison to Miller, it's really a lot smoother.
And since the beginning of the Blatz TV taste tests in 1975, sales have increased each year because Blatz is still brewed for quality.
When I have the two together, the Blatz definitely tastes better.
I pick Blatz over my beer, like beer.
Taste Blatz yourself. Compare the quality, compare the price.
Pleased to meet you, Blatz.
Ivory Liquid presents Dishwashing Talk.
Ever do dishes by candlelight before?
No, and I hope the lights come back soon.
I don't.
Oh, good.
Oh, I liked it cozy.
Oh, after 13 years.
I thought we'd hold hands.
Oh.
Yours still feels so soft and looks so young.
Well, honey, they've always been into Ivory Liquid. It's got what hands need to help them stay young looking.
How come?
Because it's the mildest of all the big brands. That makes the difference.
Let me check that.
Did you do that?
What?
Mild Ivory Liquid, because young-looking hands are worth holding on to.
The red letter day in Twins history was October 26, 1960. It was on that day that Calvin Griffith announced that his Washington Senators would be based in the state of Minnesota and be known as the Minnesota Twins. Well, let's turn the clock back to the spring of 1961 as announcer Bob Wolf welcomes the newest professional team to the Twin Cities.
The big day. At last, Major League Baseball arrives. The Twin Cities are joined together and await the cry, "Play ball." It's a big day for Calvin Griffith, president of the Twins. And here the fans come from all over, many with season tickets. All seats are good ones in this modern, spacious stadium. Team captain Harmon Killebrew heads the Twin Stars on parade. Minnesota's slugging outfielder Bob Allison. And the sturdy catcher Earl Batty. From the first game to the last, there are thrills galore. Kralik eyes the runner, pauses, comes in with the pitch. Fox wraps it on the ground to Martin, who hustles the ball to Versalles for one, and Versalles whips the ball to Killebrew for two. There's no defense, though, against Harmon Killebrew when he lays the wood into one. Not unless they change the rules to allow the outfielders to play in the bleachers. This is one of 46 home runs the Idaho Strong Boy hit in the Twins' first season in Minnesota. Here's Bill Tuttle to continue the sensational play for the Twins. Watch him go to his left. The Twins may not be pennant-bound this season, but they're demonstrating great promise for the future.
Only 4 years later, the Twins won the pennant and played the Dodgers in that memorable 1965 World Series. Vice President Hubert Humphrey threw out the first ball, and the Twins thrilled the sellout crowd, winning the opener 8-2. MVP shortstop Zoilo Versalles hit a 3-run homer to lead the way. Calvin's boys also won the second game. The series featured the most famous catch in Twins history, Bob Allison's diving stab in left. However, Sandy Koufax saved the day for the Dodgers, winning Game 7 as Los Angeles became world champs. Success followed in 1969 and 70 when the Twins won divisional championships. In the summer of '77, the Twins challenged for first, led by the incomparable Rod Carew, who flirted with the magical 400 mark. In September of 1981, the Twins played their last game at Metropolitan Stadium, the end of outdoor baseball in Minnesota. These have been tough times under the roof. In 1982, the team lost over 100 games, the worst record in the league, along with the lowest attendance. Now there is real hope for the future. The Twins have some of the best young talent in baseball. Today, they are 2 games under 500, but only 2.5 games out of first place.
Among the festivities on tap this evening right now at the Metrodome, the Home Run Derby, which is just underway with Greg Luzinski at bat right now. He'll face Tom Brunansky of the Twins. With me at this moment, a gentleman who hit a number of home runs in his long career with the Twins. As Luzinski drills his first of the evening, of course, Jim Lemon, the Twins' first base coach and batting instructor. Jim, you spent many, many years with the Griffith organization. What are your thoughts on tonight?
Well, I'm terribly sorry to see Mr. Griffith retire. If he is, I understand he's going to be active somehow or other in the ball club, and that'll be good. Baseball needs the good people that have been a part of the game. The American League has kept around a lot of good hitters with the designated hitter rule, and it's certainly good to see some of the older folks, the people who have been a part of the game for so long, stay in it.
Do you expect any changes early on?
I really don't know. We haven't had any meetings with anyone, so I really don't know.
What are your personal impressions of Carl Pohlad thus far?
I don't know. I haven't met the man. Very wealthy. Other than that, I don't know.
Okay, you're one of your men here, but Tom Brunansky just hit his first homer of the night. I know you want to go back and watch the home run derby. Jim,
I would.
Thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Twins 84, changing of the guard will continue right after this.
I'll be a bit more committed to really expanding the teaming, seeing that we have a league contender on a regular basis.
I think he's, is going to try to put a good team out on the field, and get more people to come to the games.
He's got some new ideas and some ambitions that maybe we haven't seen around for a while. So that'll be exciting.
Announcing Wix Furniture's all-bedroom sale, the kind of sale you could lose sleep over. every bedroom is reduced drastically, like this lush contemporary bedroom. It was $1299.95. This weekend, $999.88, a $300 savings. You'll save big on this gorgeous country bedroom. Now just $999.88. You save $500. So save this weekend and sleep easy. Wix, surprisingly Wix, where you get more than you pay for.
What does it take to make a great shake? Thick, flowing flavors like luscious strawberry, tangy pineapple, and thick, rich, delicious chocolate, swirling deep into a pool that's light, refreshing, and oh so cool and creamy smooth. There's only one place to get a shake this great.
In the land of Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
I have to admit that having grown up in the Twin Cities, first as a Twins fan, then covering the Twins, this is really a fun evening for me. It's a lot of festivities, a lot of nice things going on, and the fans are really involved out here at the Metrodome tonight with the home run derby going on. Of course, I'd like to remind you that the ceremonies are coming up in just a bit. At the heart of this story is the man who brought us baseball in the 60s. PM Magazine's Steve Doyle has this profile of Calvin Griffith.
An anachronism in the sport's hype and hoopla and hefty pay hikes. He's the last of baseball's dinosaurs, Calvin Griffith.
Baseball keeps you going. The athlete aggravates you, they make you happy, they do everything. They stimulate your blood. You have all these different things that makes you think clearly, makes you think more, and makes you wonder why tomorrow if you're going to be here again. That's what I like about it.
Calvin caught the baseball bug early. Born in Montreal, he and his sister Thelma were adopted by Uncle Clark Griffith, Hall of Famer, co-founder of the American League, and owner of the Washington Senators. Having an uncle in the business has its advantages.
I played ball because I had the balls. And I used to be able to get the baseballs from the ball club, so they always waited for me to show up, and as soon as I showed up, we started the game.
With Uncle Clark owning the club, no need to sneak in the park or peek through the knotholes. On opening day of the 22 season, Calvin had a front row seat as bat boy, which put him in some pretty fast company.
Of course, I knew Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and all those great big guys, Ty Cobb. You sit down and they were very friendly. They would talk to you. They'd kid you and everything else.
And for a while, Calvin even toyed with the idea of becoming one of them.
I used to catch and pitch. I didn't have a good I had a hell of a curveball. I could throw a curveball through a keyhole. But I could catch. I could really catch.
But he was being groomed for something more. At his uncle's side, more often though in his shadow, Calvin was learning from the ground up how to run a baseball club. He sold concessions, successfully managed and directed 2 farm teams, became traveling secretary, farm director, vice president, and then when his Uncle Clark died in 1955, president of the Washington Nationals. But following a legend was frustrating, and in the face of an increasingly hostile press, but more importantly, lagging attendance, Calvin, in a shrewd, bold decision, moved the team to Minnesota, where unemployment was low and salaries high. The year, 1961.
It was the greatest thing that we have ever done, the Griffith family, is to move from Washington to Minnesota. With the ball club that we had coming along, Bob Allison and Killebrew and everything else, that could hit the ball out of the ballpark, and we felt then that we had a ball club that could entertain the people, in which we did. The enthusiasm of the fans out here, it was tremendous.
In just 5 seasons, the fans were rewarded with a pennant. The '65 World Series went the full 7 games before the Twins finally lost. But for the next several seasons, the Twins were contenders. The teams have been so good because Calvin has had a knack for knowing baseball talent. The Twins farm system he built has been second to none. But the rosy years of the 60s have given way to discontent. Free agents and multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts that Calvin will not, indeed cannot pay. And great players have left. His friends say he is a man of principle, discipline, and thrift. Antiquated and cheap, say his critics.
and you are the most improved twin of 1980. And God bless you, young man.
Thank you. But despite the picture the press often depicts, Calvin is a warm, sensitive person whose honest, sometimes earthy attempts to be funny are misinterpreted or misreported. The now infamous Lions Club speech a couple years ago, which some called racist and off-colored, stung the most.
It hurt me tremendously because it was nothing truthful about it. I see things on TV now. I said, if I said that, I would have the greatest headlines in the whole United States. But these other people are supposed to be comedians. And to get a laugh, you got to say something silly once in a while. But I never said anything racial down there whatsoever. Well, I know you've heard of the Gold Gloves for the outstanding fielding team.
But get Calvin talking about baseball's past, and the hurt and the frustration immediately disappear. Surrounded by the likes of Harmon Killebrew's 500th home run bat, and a ball signed by a young pitching hopeful named Fidel Castro. Memories of a life that has been full and rich.
But it's a big job. I know it. I'd hate to do it myself. You think you're doing right, and then it isn't right. And then everybody criticizes you. So,
well, if you don't do something, you don't get criticized. You got to do things to get criticized. That's all there is to it.
That's about right.
Well, to me, baseball is my life. And it will be my life as long as I can breathe. It has meant everything in the world to me and my whole family and everything else. It's been great. We've had a lot of great living days, and I'm just hoping that I'm around to see that a few things are changed in the future.
Well, we're back at the Metrodome, and an update on that home run derby right now. Greg Luzinski is leading Tom Brunansky of the Minnesota Twins 4 home runs to 3 in the 4th inning of this 5-inning game. It's a lot of fun. The fans are getting a real kick out of it. I'm with Twins pitcher Ron Davis, who's also enjoying watching this. Ron, we just saw a profile of Calvin Griffith. A few years ago, Calvin traded for you from the New York Yankees. There was a time there where you were very critical of Calvin. There was a bit of a stormy relationship, to say the least. What are your impressions of the man now as he leaves the ownership of the Minnesota Twins?
Well, I kind of feel a little, I can feel for him a little bit. I feel that, it's been in his life, his whole, he was born into it, and it's kind of sad to see some of the guys that have been in it for so long get out of it. And I don't know if anybody, in the metropolitan area has ever seen Calvin Griffith, cry a little bit or shed some tears. And I think you'll see some tonight, because definitely Calvin's going to cry when he hands over the deal, because it's part of his life, his family's life. And, it's a crushing blow to him to give it up. And you can really feel for the man.
Ron, you've really dealt with owners on both ends of the spectrum. George Steinbrenner, who has been said to have been dealing with both sides of his wallet at times, and Calvin Griffith. What are your impressions of each man as far as an owner? Is there room for both people in this business?
Well, I think that's why one reason I don't think there's room for both of them is free agency. And to compete around here, you have to have free agency. And Calvin didn't have the money that George Steinbrenner did, so he realized that, hey, somewhere down the road I am going to have to sell, and he did. And someone like, George Steinbrenner has a lot of money, and they can definitely, get rid of it. And, they can waste money. They don't care. And if something falls out, they can sign somebody for $4 or $5 million. If it doesn't work out for them, well, they just release them and keep paying them. Well, someone like Calvin Griffith couldn't do that. So that's why he had to really bow down, because of free agency, I believe.
Ron, what do the players expect from a new owner such as Carl Pohlad? What would you like to see happen on this club?
Nothing really. It's nothing really a new owner could do right now for us. I think during the winter, that's the time it's really going to show. He's going to have to go out and fill in a few spots that we might be weak in. I don't know what spots we're weak in. They're going to have to talk about it up there and see what, we're definitely going to have to get some left-handed hitting, and maybe they've been saying we need a shortstop and things like that, and some bench strength. So if he can go out and get a few men, we can be right there next year.
You mentioned the analogy really with Steinbrenner. Pohlad in his news conference earlier today said really that the Yankees are living proof right now that money really can't buy a pennant winner, at least at the moment right now. Would you agree with that philosophy?
I agree with that. You can have all the money in the world if you don't make the right moves and buy the right people. You're not going to get them. George has gone out and bought a lot of talent, but you have to. It's noisy out here, so you have to pick the right people in the right position, and people have to play together to win. And you know, George has, you know, 10 new guys in there every year, and they're never going to win with that kind of philosophy.
Ron, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us during this special hour.
Thank you.
Ron Davis of the Minnesota Twins is on a tear right now with the Minnesota Twins. Next, a profile and interview with the new Twins owner, Carl Pohlad. Twins 84, a season of change will continue.
He's been a crafty guy. He's been great for baseball. I'd rather have Cal out, gone, and start afresh from point zero. Have a real team.
I hate to see him go. He's one of the old timers in baseball, and I'll miss him.
For a limited time, taco pizza is at Pizza Hut.
And ever since he's tried it, Harry's been like a different person.
Señora, tanto gusto.
First I thought, it's the crust. He's crazy for the crust.
Me he divertido muchísimo.
And then I thought, well, maybe it's the real taco toppings like beef and cheddar cheese and tomatoes.
Estupendo.
But now, I don't even care. Because whatever it is, we'll be back tomorrow.
Taco pizza at Pizza Hut, only for a limited time. Fantastico.
Monday on Breakaway. You don't have to be 18 and slender to win a beauty contest. At this pageant, big is beautiful, and it's something to be proud of.
This doesn't look like paradise, but it's what the buyers were promised. We begin a look at a real estate scam that shocked the investors.
Plus, we'll see some proud pet owners lay to rest the question of who's got the most wonderful pet.
And we'll find out what to do when your husband's roving eye starts to affect your marriage.
All this and more Monday on Breakaway.
Don't miss the next edition of Breakaway, Monday at 4 on WCCO television.
It's Greg Luzinski and Tom Brunansky go at it again. We're in inning 4 right now with the Bull holding a 7-4 lead in home runs. 1 inning to go. Well, covering the sale of the Minnesota Twins has been an all-consuming activity for Karen Boros of our staff, and we've asked her to prepare 2 reports for our program. First, a brief look at Carl Pohlad, the businessman.
Carl Pohlad grew up in Iowa, working part-time jobs while still in school and starting a used car business during his college years. After he graduated, he bought into a finance company in Dubuque and kept right on moving. At age 40, he became president of Marquette Bank, which 3 years ago merged with the troubled F&M Bank, a merger bank experts said would never happen, a merger engineered by Pohlad. Pohlad and his family and partners control some 30 banks in the Midwest. He built the 3rd largest Pepsi bottling franchise in the nation, MEI, from a defunct bus company in the early 70s. The bus company lost out in a bid to carry passengers, so it acquired a bottling franchise and, like Pohlad, kept right on moving. Acquiring the Twins, according to Pohlad, has been a difficult process, complex, but the Griffith family has been easy to deal with, and Pohlad is pleased by the prospect of working with them.
Because usually when you acquire a business, or particularly as I see it in some sporting teams, why the owners usually hang around and get unhappy very soon. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think the entire ownership or family ownership will be right in there working harder than they ever did before.
Once again, an update here on the Home Run Derby, and the crowd is loving it tonight at the Metrodome. Tom Brunansky doing his best to come from behind here. He trails 8-5 with 1 out. He's got 2 outs to go. Tom Brunansky apparently will not win here tonight unless he comes through with a few quick home runs. Well, we saw a little bit there about Mr. Pohlad's past, but what about his plans for the Twins in the years to come? Yesterday, Karen Boros spoke with Carl Pohlad in his Minneapolis office.
It has been said that the Twins' marketing program involves opening the ticket window and letting the fans line up to pay. That is about to change. The new owner, Carl Pohlad, will have a marketing plan and more. He brings financial stability to the team, which combined with improved management should boost player morale and pay off at the gate. Pohlad wants a gate of 2 million fans a year, more than the team has attracted ever.
I think we're going to see an entirely different change in the fans' attitude.
When the Minnesota Strikers offered a free Beach Boys concert to their ticket holders, they attracted 52,000 fans and the attention of Carl Pohlad. He says there will be more promotions to get people into the ballpark, that when you are in the entertainment business, you must do things to get noticed.
I hope that along the way there is a female athlete that displays the necessary ability to be a part of a baseball team. Now, how soon that will be in the future remains to be seen. But that's certainly a thought that has crossed my mind, that there ought to be somebody out there to start the trend.
A lot of team owners run the whole show, or at least try to. Pohlad will hire someone to run his team, let them run the team, and assess the results on the field and at the gate.
Performance will be measured, in the case of baseball, by his ability to put together a team that will be not number 2 or 3, but will be number 1.
Calvin Griffith, who some say is the source of Twins' troubles, will stay on with the team. Griffith has won Pohlad's respect during their negotiations. While his role in Pohlad's organization has not been decided, Griffith is viewed as a valuable asset.
He's probably the best judge of young baseball talent in the business today. And of course, that's the most important thing in baseball, being able to judge young talent and get them signed, develop them, and get them signed on a long enough contract so that you don't lose them.
Businessman Harvey McKay gets credit from Pohlad for keeping the team in town. Pohlad said if it hadn't been for the ticket buyout drive to bind the team to their stadium lease, that a reasonable purchase price could not have been negotiated. McKay is expected to have a continued role with the Twins, but neither McKay or Pohlad have formally talked about what that role might be.
Harvey does have a marketing flair. He has a way of doing things. He's a doer. And certainly he can make a very valuable contribution to the team.
Carl Pohlad is not a gambler. He is not buying this team on the off chance that it might win a few games and make a few dollars. He will put into the team what he thinks it will take to make the team work as a team and as a business. And he thinks owning the Twins is going to be fun, not just for himself, but for all the rest of us.
We expect to be number 1. I won't stand for anything less than number 1.
The ceremonial transfer of the team will begin in just a few moments. We'll be right back with Twins 84, a season of change.
Things loose a little bit and keep the good ball players here.
Well, if he gets rid of Calvin, it'll probably be good.
Get a couple more pitchers would do the trick, and somebody that can hit the long ball.
Go out and get some free agents.
For those important news stories that don't want to be told, Channel 4 has the I-Team.
Do we have sworn testimony?
Yeah, 2 affidavits and 3 other confirms.
The I-Team, only on WCCO television. Their job is to investigate the facts, uncover what's wrong, and protect your right to know. Thinking People, Shelby, Austin, and you. WCCO television is news for thinking people.
There's a lot of places you can go to get a Coca-Cola, but Slumberland wouldn't come to mind. If I wasn't here to tell you that this Saturday at Slumberland, the Cokes are free and everything in the store is on sale. Everything but the Coke machine, every bed set, lazy boy, and sleep sofa, all the water beds and all the brass beds. It's not often we put the whole place on sale. Anything you need, anything you want will cost you a lot less, but only this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So, all things on sale considered, Slumberland might be the best place to get yourself a Coke this Saturday.
Well, we're standing back here live at the Metrodome, getting ready for the official ceremony, the transfer of ownership of the Minnesota Twins from Calvin Griffith to Carl Pohlad. It is indeed an exciting night here at the Met. The crowd's starting to fill in here, and actually looks like it could get anywhere from 18 to 20,000, which, as we all know by now, is a very good crowd for the Minnesota Twins. And Tom, we just got through watching an exciting home run derby. You know, it reminds me, we were talking about earlier, watching the old home run derby back when we were kids, watching them on Friday nights, and Luzinski and Bernansky put on a good show for us tonight.
And the bull came through, unfortunately, but it really didn't matter. The crowd just loved it out here, every moment of it. I know a lot of people here probably did not see the program in the 50s and 60s, but Greg Luzinski won it 8-5, and he'll go on now, of course, to meet Hal McRae in round 2.
And eventually the winner of the home run derby will get $50,000. That's waiting for him at the end of the rainbow here. We should mention, of course, there's a ball game going on here tonight, too. The Minnesota Twins, still very much in contention in the Western Division, are playing the team that won it all last year in the West, the Chicago White Sox. So the Twins are just 2.5 games out of first place and 2 games under 500. And Mike Smithson will be pitching for the Twins coming up here in a few minutes after the official ceremony. Now we are about to begin the official ceremony, so let's turn it over to the PA announcer, Tom Mee. Tom?
10 months ago, the Greater Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce introduced a new president. A chamber president's position involves numerous and varied responsibilities. Nevertheless, soon after his arrival, this man was playing a key role in helping to keep Major League Baseball in Minnesota. I'm pleased to introduce the Master of Ceremonies for this evening, a great Twins fan, and the President of our Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Dick Upton. Dick?
Thank you, Tom. And thank you all for being here this evening. It's a great evening for Minnesota and for baseball. In regard to Tom's comments about how much time was invested to keep this team in Minnesota, I'm sure I can say to you, for all the hundreds of people that were involved, every moment and every hour was well worthwhile, because the Twins are going to stay in Minnesota. There really were well over hundreds of people that were involved in this activity. And while we're not going to recognize those people tonight, please know that we will recognize all of them at a later time. But the Twins tonight have said, because of all the activity that's gone on, the bringing of this community together, and we had people from Bloomington, from St. Paul, as well as from Minneapolis and other communities in the metropolitan area, and communities and cities across Minnesota give us the help that we needed. And that's the way it should be, because that team's the Minnesota Twins. And it's a great opportunity that we have tonight to recognize the leadership that 4 people played in making this event happen. Last October, the chairman of our Chamber of Commerce, Merlin Dewing, took on the added responsibility of becoming the chairman of the Minnesota Professional Baseball Task Force. He's put in countless hours. He was the fellow who brought everybody together, and it was the direction that he gave us starting last fall that's given us the point where we are tonight. Along with him is Harvey McKay, who's brought baseball to a new level of commitment. And I want you to recognize Merlin Dewing and Harvey McKay. Our professional sports facilities director, Jerry Bell, and the chairman, Ron Gornick, and the commission that runs the facilities have done an uncommon job of playing a key role in this project from its very inception and through some very critical stages. There are people who work for you and me in running this facility, and I can tell you they've done a wonderful job. Please recognize Ron Gornick and Jerry Bell. One of the sports writers, when talking about what needs to be done as we move to the future on this project, said, how do we get baseball really involved with the fans? And I would suggest there are 4 sets of principles here tonight. Our Minnesota Twins, the new owner, the Griffiths, and you, the fans. And if it wouldn't be for you, we wouldn't have baseball, so give yourselves a round of applause. But tonight signals the beginning of a new era in baseball, the conclusion of a program for a family who's been a pioneer in baseball, and the mark of a new one for a new leader for our baseball team. And I'd like the Griffith family to come out. They've been in baseball in this franchise for over 72 years. And it was Calvin who made the decision to bring baseball to Minnesota. And we all appreciate the fact that they wanted to keep baseball here in Minnesota. And they were the ones who found the new owner that's going to keep baseball here. Let's welcome Calvin and Thelma to right now. Calvin. Come here. You can't hear what you're saying back here. I know it. Right here, Calvin.
The signs here at the Metrodome. Dear Calvin, thanks for the memories.
A
It's been an
change in
interesting,
baseball ownership.
Round of applause and some smattering of boos here for Calvin Griffith, the outgoing owner of the Minnesota Twins.
Your town that's going to own the team. That's what's great about tonight. Carl Pohlad's a Minnesotan.
The big round of applause now for the new owner of the Minnesota Twins, Carl Pohlad, who promised to first and foremost keep the development of the Twins going. That the Twins have one of the best farm systems in baseball, that they have one of the best scouting systems in baseball, and he wants all of them to be winners. We should mention, Tom, one thing we have not talked about at all is the fact that even though this is sort of a going away party for Calvin Griffith, Calvin really isn't going anywhere. He will still be an integral part of this ball club. That role is yet to be determined. At the news conference tonight, Carl Pohlad was asked about the role of Calvin Griffith, and Calvin in turn was also asked about it, and neither had an answer other than to say that Calvin's going to kind of take it easy and no longer will he have to be responsible for signing the paychecks.
Calvin, and of course the rest of his family will remain with the Twins for the time being.
With us tonight, because Governor and Mrs. Perpich are in Korea, representing the first family is Mary Sue Perpich. Let's give her a round of applause. Mary? I made comment that it's unusual when you find a local leader who will step to the front and do the job. Carl Pohlad's that kind of a man, and we're delighted that he's going to be working with Calvin in the future for the betterment of baseball in Minnesota. Gentlemen, you've got some documents in front of you. If you'd like to sign them, then we'll get you up here for some remarks. Yes, sir.
Eloise and Carl, it is certainly a great pleasure to be here in front of all our fans this evening to introduce a person that has been trying to purchase a team for the last 5 years, and I know he is a person that everybody here in the state of Minnesota will relish. He's a true Minnesotan. And my sister and I selected this one person to take over the running of the Minnesota Twins, and Carl Pohlad. And Carl, I'm just wishing you and your new ball club the best of luck. You got a young ball club here that has all the potential in the world. They don't give up. They got a lot of intestinal fortitude. The manager and the coaches are doing an outstanding job. And don't be surprised at the end of the season that you're not a champion. Thank you.
We weren't supposed to pass the baseball.
Carl, Here is a new baseball, a brand new one, and I'm just hoping that you don't have too many curveballs in it.
Thank you, Thelma and Calvin. This probably is the most expensive baseball in the world. So therefore, I will hold it up one more time. Tonight is a special night for me and my family, just as it must be a very special night for the Griffith family and all of Minnesota. Calvin, when you brought the Twins here in 1961, you reaffirmed for all of us what we already knew, that the Twin Cities and Minnesota are major league, right? You and your family have been very important to all of us, and for bringing Major League Baseball to Minnesota, we thank you. And for making it possible for us to keep it here, we also thank you. Now comes a real big thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the people that are really important, and that's you fans. So let's have a big hand for all you fans. I think you already know by the play on the field that we have a very young and promising team. And this is the kind of team that the sports fans of Minnesota deserve. I'd like to just take a moment to express my thanks to each of you assembled at home plate, as well as all of those people whose cooperation and personal efforts have made tonight possible. I am committed and I am dedicated to make the Minnesota Twins not number 4, not number 3, not number 2, but number 1. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you for your past support, and let's make Minnesota a real Major League baseball town. And the way you can all help us is to support us. So we urge and will appreciate all the support you can give us. Thank you again. Enjoy the baseball game.
Carl Pohlad promising the Minnesota Twins that they will not be number 4, number 3, number 2, but number 1. Carl Pohlad will now present each and every member of the Minnesota Twins with a special gift, starting with Twins manager Billy Gardner, who looks like he has a special gift in turn for the new owner of the Minnesota Twins. The number 84 jersey for Carl Pohlad.
Among the items that the Twins will be receiving, as we understand it this evening from Carl as he tries on his Twins uniform, a number of gifts, including an autographed baseball with Carl's autograph on it. That for each of the Twins. Carl looks pretty good in the uniform.
In case you don't know it, I'm the designated pitcher for the evening.
Going up there and we'll meet all those players.
During the news conference tonight, Carl Pohlad was asked about what his relationship would be with the ball players. He says, well, to be honest with you, I really haven't had a chance to think about it. But he says, I think it's important to get to know my ball players. A lot of owners, Calvin Griffith for one in particular, I think spent maybe one time down in the clubhouse. I know Carl doesn't plan on being involved with the day-to-day activities of the ball club, but would like to know his team. It's very important, he says. I want winners on this club, and anyone who doesn't feel they can be in first place, I don't want on my ball team. So it's a new personality, a lot of warmth, I think, that Carl Pohlad is exhibiting tonight. And Tom, I noticed when Carl Pohlad made his speech about wanting to be #1, a lot of smiles on the Twins players. They haven't heard that in a long time.
Well, you can see it etched in their faces right now. He's taking a moment to have a personal chat with each one of them, and plenty of smiles. A very, very warm reception from Carl Pohlad, from his new ball club, and certainly from the 20 to 25,000 people that turned out tonight at the Metrodome.
I understand that in every Pepsi bag that Carl Pohlad is presenting to the ball players, there is a token of his appreciation by a gift from every company that Pohlad works for. They're going to have their hands full. That bag must weigh about 50 pounds.
How can they fit all that in one bag, I wonder?
I talked to Billy Gardner before the game, and I asked him, I said, well, do you think all these distractions are going to affect your ball club? I mean, after all, this is an important series for you. He goes, well, no, he says, we're all major leaguers. We can handle the pressure, and this is a night that the ball players, I think, have been waiting for a long time. It's a nice gesture as the ball players not only shaking hands with Carl Pohlad and Thelma Haynes, but Calvin Griffith as well. And I think we heard Ron Davis earlier tonight, a man who had some bitter experiences with Calvin Griffith early, express his gratitude to a man, and so much his gratitude as his respect for a man who has made baseball his living. It's rather ironic that the Twins are playing a team that used to be owned by a man who was in a similar situation as Calvin Griffith, that being Bill Veeck. Up until a short time ago, also had to sell his club, now owned by Eddie Einhorn, and the people with the money, and that's the nature of the game, but it's amazing that Calvin has made it this long.
Well, again, you can look at the emotion here on the faces of the Twins players as they shake hands with their new owner, Carl Pohlad, and their former owner, Calvin Griffith. A very warm and touching ceremony so far. While we have a moment here, Mark Rosen is walking over with Dave Engel. Let's get a reaction from Dave Engel, Twins catcher, about what has been a very interesting evening. Mark?
Dave, I know you guys have a lot on your mind. First and foremost, the baseball game that's coming up, but what's your reaction to the new ownership with Carl Pohlad?
Well, I'll always be indebted to Calvin Griffith and Thelma Haynes for all the support and determination they've given to me as a player, and I hope this is the best move for them, and I welcome the new ownership. I hope we can bring a winner home here to Minnesota.
I noticed a lot of smiles on the faces of the Twins when Carl Pohlad said he won't settle for fourth, third, or second. He wants to be #1.
Well, I think that's a goal all of us have had too, and I hope that in the next 2 or 3 months we can do something about that.
Dave, thank you very much for spending some time with us, and good luck tonight against the White Sox.
Thank you.
Catcher Dave Engel, the Minnesota Twins, who's off to a sensational start. One of the up-and-coming stars, Dave Engel, was involved with that trade that sent Rod Carew, that controversial trade that sent Rod Carew to the California Angels a few years back. Dave Engel, in a few years, I think, will be one of the best catchers in the American League. He actually played outfield for the first couple of years, and in minor leagues also. He's a converted outfielder, and Dave Engel is right now one of the leading hitters in the American League and an up-and-coming catcher as well.
Mark, I know Calvin Griffith has thought about this evening for a long time. I just walked over to watch Calvin talk with some of his ball players, and he is very much choked up. There were tears rolling down his cheeks as he was talking to his players. He's been very touched by the reception this evening.
In the next couple of weeks, it could be a short time before that, the American League owners will undoubtedly approve the sale of the Minnesota Twins to Carl Pohlad. Pohlad said at a news conference tonight, as you can see, that says it all right there. An emotional night for a man who has done so much for baseball, Calvin Griffith. Pohlad said he would not discuss what his plans are for the future of the Twins until the American League officially approves the sale of the club. But he did say one of his first priorities is to name a man who will run the club on a day-to-day basis. As Calvin says goodbye to the Minnesota Twins fans. I'm with Twins outfielder Mickey Hatcher. Mickey, I'd like to get your thoughts, first of all, on what has been a very emotional night for Calvin Griffith.
I think it's a great night for him. Like I say, I think it was a great thing for him to sell the club. I told him personally, take some of that money, take a vacation, you well deserve it, enjoy yourself. And I hope he does that.
Mickey, what are your thoughts about the new ownership? Carl Pohlad made a speech tonight saying that he wants the Twins to be #1. He won't settle for anything less.
I think it's great, and I think he's got a good ball club to start with, and I think that's a good start for him. And like I say, every one of us are going to go out and do our best for him, and we hope that we can produce and be on the top this year. And I know if we struggle in certain situations, he's going to go out and get those players we need, and that's what Minnesota needs, is somebody like him. And he's determined to get a #1 team here, and we're determined to be #1 team.
Mickey, you know, the Twins have supposedly on a youth movement. A lot of people don't even feel a lot of people would be very surprised to find him in second place right now. Are the ball players surprised to see you up there right now?
Yeah, we are. I think we got in a situation where it's been every year. We need pitching to help carry our club. This year we got pitching staff. They're doing really well. We get 4 games out. It seems like we come back. We get a game out of 500. We want to play around 500 because we know we do good our second half, and we're right where we want to be, and hopefully we could sweep Chicago.
Okay, Mickey, thank you very much for being with us.
All right, thank you.
Mickey Hatcher of the Minnesota Twins, who are about to begin their series against the Chicago White Sox in a few moments here. It's been a very busy activity, a very busy evening here at the Metrodome, starting with the home run derby and culminated with a very touching, very moving experience from the past to the future as Calvin Griffith turned his Minnesota ball club over to Carl Pohlad. As the festivities continue here right now, Carl Pohlad will be throwing out the ceremonial first ball following the national anthem. So we'll continue with the ceremonies here at the Metrodome. Carl Pohlad is getting warmed up, throwing out the first pitch, shaking off Dave Engel's signals. His $32 million baseball. He can shake off as many signals as he wants to. Well, that wraps up the ceremony in the field, but of course there will be legal dealings completing the deal over the next few days. We'll take a break here and return with highlights of a news conference held by Carl Pohlad just before the game And finally, Dave Moore will offer his perspective on the new Minnesota Twins.
Will be more interested in the game, and we'll have bigger crowds. We needed a change.
I think if he listens to any of the fans' comments, he will do wonders. I do think the fans are what will make the change.
We now join the following program, already in progress.
These are the faces of young Americans who took on the deadliest enemy in history. World War II, the epic battles in the words and emotions of the men who fought them. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Join me for World War II GI Diary.
World War II GI Diary, Sunday at 10:30 on Channel 4.